All right, let's talk about one of the most powerful and maybe one of the most avoided tools in leadership. It's the one thing that can actually solve those frustrating, recurring problems. You know, the ones that you just keep throwing solutions at. We're going to call it naming. You've been in that room, haven't you? That moment when someone says the thing everyone's thinking but nobody dares to say, and the air just changes. It's not about drama. It's the sound of a hidden truth finally stepping into the light. And that's exactly the power we're going to unpack here. So pretty much every team, every organization has that problem, the one that just refuses to die. You feel like you're stuck on a merry-go-round, trying one fix after another, but you always end up right back where you started. And the loop usually begins with a very sensible-sounding idea. And here it is, stop number 1 on the carousel. The classic, we've got communication problems. It's a familiar story, right? People just aren't on the same page. So you throw a bunch of money at communication training, hoping to fix the people. But, spoiler alert, it almost never works. So what's next? Well, you escalate. Okay, if training didn't fix the people, then the problem must be the structure. So you start moving boxes around on the org chart, shuffling roles, hoping that a new setup is going to magically fix everything. And for a week or two, it might even feel a little different. But then the old problem creeps back in. And this is the final stop, the last resort. The problem is still there. So now it has to be a person. It's their fault. You start churning through people in that same role, blaming your hiring process, blaming the candidates, blaming anything but the system that person was dropped into. So after all that time, all that money on training, restructuring, and new hires, you're still stuck. So why? What is going on here? Well, it's pretty simple, actually. You've been treating the symptoms, not the actual disease. The real reason we get stuck in these loops is because we're afraid. We're afraid of the one thing that might actually work. It's this idea of naming the problem. And as soon as leaders hear that, they immediately tense up because they have this whole idea of what it means, and they're usually dead wrong.
Yeah, when leaders hear naming, their brain jumps straight to public shaming. They think it means pointing fingers, assigning blame, and kicking off some huge, messy conflict. They worry it means being negative or starting some big emotional showdown that's going to wreck relationships. And because of that fear, they avoid it like the plague.
And what's really fascinating is how we've created a whole corporate language to protect ourselves from doing this. When someone says, let's not make this personal, what they're really saying is, please, let's not talk about the actual dynamic happening between us. Or when you hear, let's focus on solutions, it's often code for, let's find a quick fix that doesn't challenge the real invisible power structure around here. Okay, but what if all those fears are just based on a total misunderstanding? What if naming isn't about confrontation at all? What if it's really about precision, about getting crystal clear? Let's totally redefine this thing. This is it. This is the whole ballgame right here. Naming isn't a punch in the face. It's a scalpel. It is the surgical identification of the invisible pattern that's creating all your visible problems. Let me say that again. It is not blame. It is diagnosis. And you simply cannot solve a problem that you refuse to accurately describe. And here's what that shift looks like in the real world. Before naming, you're stuck saying, we have communication problems. It's so vague. The solution? Generic training. But with naming, you can say, wait a minute, the communication problem is just a symptom. The real pattern here is an authority vacuum. No one knows who actually has the power to make a decision. See the difference? One is like trying to fight a fog. The other is a clear target. And let's be super clear. Naming is the polar opposite of drama. Drama is all about emotional reactions without any clarity. It loves to blame a person. Naming, on the other hand, is about precise identification, and it comes with evidence. It doesn't blame people. It identifies the systemic pattern that's making it hard for anyone to succeed. And that's where you start, not with an accusation, but with observation. You just ask yourself, what keeps happening over and over, no matter who is in the room? So to name that pattern, you first have to be able to see it. And to see it, you gotta understand that every single organization is running on two systems at once. There's the official one you see on the org chart, and then there's the hidden one, the one that's actually running the show, the system beneath the system. Just look at this. Officially, the company handbook says, we value work-life balance. But what's the real rule that everyone knows? The real rule is that if you leave at 5 p.m., you're not getting that promotion. We say we want honest feedback, but the hidden rule is that if you challenge a leader's idea, you get a target on your back. This hidden system, that's the real operating system of your company. And this is why your communication training and your team restructures are doomed from the very beginning. You are trying to solve a problem in the hidden system by using a tool from the official system. It's like trying to fix a software bug by polishing your monitor. It just doesn't work. So when you finally get the courage to name the hidden system, what are you actually disrupting? Well, for starters, you disrupt the gaslighting. People finally realize, okay, I'm not crazy for feeling like something is wrong here. You break the cycle of blame, and you stop good people from thinking that a systemic issue is their own personal failure. It is absolutely liberating.
Now that we get what naming is and isn't, let's talk about the alternative, staying silent. What is the real, tangible price you pay for choosing comfort over clarity, for protecting that dysfunctional pattern year after year?
Let me give you a real-world example. One company spent over £240,000 in salaries trying to fill a single role. They went through 4 different people. They kept blaming their hiring process. But the real issue was the system itself had made the role impossible to succeed in. That's £250,000 down the drain, just for not naming the pattern. But honestly, the cost goes so far beyond just money. It's losing your absolute best people, who leave because of burnout, which is often just exhaustion from fighting the hidden system every day. It's the big, important projects that stall out for mysterious reasons. And it's all that leadership time and energy that gets sucked up by the same exact problems day after day. So at the end of the day, it really boils down to a very clear choice for any leader. You've got option 1, protect the pattern. You get a little temporary comfort right now, but you're signing up for long-term decay. Or you've got option 2, name the pattern. Yeah, you're going to have some temporary discomfort, but you create the possibility for real long-term clarity and actual progress. And really, that's the whole thing in a nutshell. The discomfort of naming a pattern, it's real, I'm not going to lie, but it's temporary. It might last a few days, maybe a week, but the cost of protecting that pattern, the cost of that silence, it compounds quietly, day by day, year after year, rotting your organization from the inside out. And that brings us to the final critical shift in perspective. The question we always ask out of fear is, will naming this create problems? But that's the wrong question. The problems, they already exist. They're alive and well, doing damage right under the surface. The real question, the brave question, the question that actually leads to health and progress is this one. What is the cost of not naming this? Another person failing in that role? Another star employee burning out? Another year stuck in the same frustrating loop? That's the question you have to ask.